time we will have 2 evenings of Café Europa with different format than usual. Our dilemma and our 5 days together are dedicated to the culture of rebellion, the culture of protest. So this poetic space will also be dedicated to it. We have poets among us who will share their own poetry, but this time we will also be hearing from the dilemma participants who are not writing poetry themselves, but they will be sharing with us the most important poems or the poems that represent the most important rebellion or protest for them, and that will be the basis for our evening and discussion tonight and also at the last night of the Dilemma Academy. And I would like to start with inviting Irena Mularczuk to join me here. Irena is a poet, so she will also share her own poetry.
Good evening. So I was just thinking about the choice a lot, because it was, for me, it was important to choose someone who would be like the symbol of our literature and our like cultural history, I would say, like for centuries, and simultaneously who would manage to tell the story which we have today. And that's why I have chosen the poet Borys Humenyuk. And when I was like preparing, I was just thinking, what should I tell you about him? Because firstly, at the beginning, I thought, okay, but everything is obvious. What I can tell you about him, like people know about him. And then I understood that it's obvious for me, not for you. That's why I want to tell you about him. I want you to know him, because it's very, very important for us Ukrainian to remember about Borys. And he is, for me, like one of the most important and powerful writers in Ukrainian literature at the turn of the 20th and 21st centuries. And his final formation as a significant poet and prose writer was determined by his personal experience in the Russian-Ukrainian war that began in 2014, as he took like direct part as the deputy commander on the OUN volunteer battalion. So in 2014 appeared his first book, which was called Poems from War. And then like prose collection, Checkpoint in 2016, and then 2-volume edition, which had like poems and poetry. And that's very important that these poems, they were written directly on the front line. And the author immediately posted them on his Facebook. And in this way, like the first, how to explain that? That it's like this. It was like we could feel that, we could live that with him online simultaneously. And the experience of war creates a new aesthetic in which he writes that, in that poetry does not need words. If you want poetry, act. Poetry is in deeds. And from my point of view, it's also like a kind of rebellion. His fate remains unknown, as a few days after the Christmas in 2022, he posted on Facebook his last post and has not been heard from since. And now he is officially listed as missing. I prepared today his testament. He wrote it, if I'm not mistaken, in 2014. Yes, so should I start from? I will start from Ukrainian, okay. Заповіт. Сьогодні знову копаємо землю. Цю ненависну донецьку землю. Цю черству закам'янілу землю. Тулимося до неї. Ховаємося в ній. Ще живі. Ми ховаємося за землю. Сидимо в ній тихо, наче малі діти за маминою спиною. Ми чуємо, як б'ється її серце, як вона втомлено дихає. Нам тепло й затишно, ще живі. Завтра ми вже будемо мертві. Може, багато з нас, може, всі. Не забирайте нас із землі. Не відривайте нас від матері. Не збирайте на полі бою наші рештки. Не намагайтеся наново скласти нас докупи. І благаємо вас, ніяких хрестів, пам'ятних знаків чи меморіальних плит. Нам це не треба. Адже це не для нас, для себе ви ставите нам величні пам'ятники. Не треба ніде карбувати наших імен, просто пам'ятайте, на цьому полі, у цій землі лежать українські солдати. І все. Не віддавайте нас батькам, не хочемо, щоб батьки бачили нас такими. Нехай батьки запам'ятають нас малими дітьми, неслухняними хлопчиками з рогатками, з синцями на колінах, з двійками у щоденнику, з повною пазухою яблук із сусідського саду. Нехай батьки сподіваються, що ми колись повернемося, що ми десь є. Не віддавайте нас дружинам, нехай кохані запам'ятають нас красенями, такими, які подобалися багатьом дівчатам, а дісталися їм. Нехай вони запам'ятають наші гарячі губи, наш гарячий подих, наші палкі обійми. Нехай вони не торкаються нашого холодного чола, наших холодних вуст. Не віддавайте нас дітям. Нехай діти запам'ятають наші теплі очі, наші теплі посмішки, наші теплі руки. Нехай діти не торкаються тремтячими губами наших холодних рук. У цих ось окопах, які сьогодні для нас тимчасове житло, а завтра стануть нашими могилами, поховайте нас. Не потрібно прощальних промов. У тиші, яка настає після бою, це завжди виглядає недоречно. Це наче штурхати загиблого воїна і просити, щоб той встав. Не треба панахид, ми й так знаємо, де тепер буде наше місце. Просто накрийте нас землею і йдіть. Було б добре, якби на тому місці було поле, колосилося жито, щоб жайвір у небі і небо, багато неба. Ви можете собі уявити, який хліб родитиме поле, де лежать бійці. На пам'ять про нас їжте хліб з поля, де ми полягли. Було б добре, якби на тому місці були луки і багато-багато квітів, і бджола над кожною квіткою, щоб надвечір приходили закохані, плели вінки, кохалися до ранку, і вдень, щоб приходили молоді батьки з малими дітьми. Не перешкоджайте дітям приходити до нас. Але це буде завтра. А сьогодні ми ще копаємо землю, цю дорогу українську землю, цю солодку, ласкаву землю. Пишемо гуртом, саперними лопатками на її тілі останній вірш української літератури. Ще живі. We always do like that. Veronica reads English version and I read Ukrainian one, so I would ask you to read that.
A testament. Today we are digging the earth again, this hurtful Donetsk earth, this stale, petrified earth. We press ourselves into it, we hide in it, still alive. We hide behind it, sit silently in it, like little children behind their mother's back. We hear its heart beating, its weary breath. We are warm and comfortable, still alive. Tomorrow we will die, maybe some of us, maybe all of us. Don't take us from the earth. Don't tear us away from our mother. Don't gather our remains from the field. Don't try to put us back together again. And we beg you, don't erect crosses, monuments, or memorial slabs. We don't need them, because it isn't for us. You erect those monuments for yourselves. Don't engrave our names. Simply remember, on this field, in this earth, Ukrainian soldiers lie, and that is all. Don't return us to our parents. We don't want them to see us like this. Let our parents remember us children, not little boys with slingshots and bruised knees, with failing marks on their report cards, with shirts cramped with apples from the neighbor's orchid. Let our parents believe that we will return one day, that we are somewhere. Don't return us to our wives. Let them remember us handsome, as men well liked by women, who belong to their wives alone. Let them remember our warm kisses, our loving embraces. Don't let them touch our cold foreheads or cold lips. Don't return us to our children. Let our children remember our kind eyes, our kind smiles, our kind hands. Don't let our children's lips touch our cold hands. In these trenches, today our temporary homes, tomorrow our graves, bury us. We don't need eulogies in the silence that follows battle. They always seem odd, like punching a dead soldier, then ordering him to his feet. We don't need funerals. We know where our place is. Simply cover us with earth and move on. It would be nice if there was a field where rye is swaying, a lark flies overhead, and the sky, the endless sky. Can you imagine the grain a field where warriors are lying will lead? To remember us, eat the grain from the field where we laid down our lives. It would be good if there were meadows there, and many flowers, and a bee under each flower, and lovers who come in the evening to weave wreaths to make love till dawn. And during the day, let new parents bring their young children. Don't keep children from coming to us. But this will be tomorrow. Today we are still digging the earth, this cherished Ukrainian earth, this sweet, gentle earth. And with a soldier's spade we write as one, on its body, the last Ukrainian poem of the last poets left alive. Thank you so much for choosing this poem and evoking this voice. Would you like to read also your own? So what we will do is that we will always read the original poem, and if there is a translation into English, we'll read it. But if there is not, you can just sum up the poem for us. That's also fine.
Thank you. I was just thinking, when I was thinking what to read today, I've understood that perhaps it's like my answer for that Boris poem, because unconscious answer, of course, but I've also written that poem like praying and thinking about Ukrainian soldiers, and from my point of view, it's like a kind of even dialogue perhaps with him. І коли вона плаче, я більше не знаю, хто я, відкидаючи пасмо вогню зі своїх очей. Я пишу на її ключицях, жива, як хвоя, і колюча, немов стерня, і м'яка, мов глей. Мені хочеться їй написати: ти тил і зброя, ти і рана, і бинт, і медик, і лезо, і біль, ти і яблуко, і Гелена, і трон, і Троя, і Донбас, і солодка сіль українських піль, ти і кров, і кровоспинне, ти і полон, і воля, ти вода і земля, ти мова і вуста, усе, ти чорнюща жалоба, коли назавжди хоронять, і білесенька чиста віра, коли несе. Ти хрестик на вишиванці, і хрест могильний, і натільний, який береже від ворожих куль. Ти життя, розумієш? Ти про життя, богине. Відсилай його нашим, найперше на нуль. На нуль.
And when she cries, I don't know who I am anymore, throwing a shelf of fire from her eyes. I write on her collarbones, you are alive like a fire needless. You are thorny like a stubble and soft like a clay. I want to write on her. You are both a rare and a weapon. You are a wound and a bandage, a doctor and a blade. You are pain. You are all, an apple, Helen of Sparta, a throne, and Troy. You are a Donbas and sweet salt of the Ukrainian fields. You are both a blood and a hemostatic, prison and freedom. You are water and ground. You are a speech and lips, all. You are deep dark morning when buried forever. You are shining white faith when pregnant is. You are a cross stitch and blows, embroidery, and you are a grave cross. And you are a cross pendant that protects from enemy shots. You are life. Do you understand it? You are life, goddess. Send this life to our soldiers. First, to the front line, to the field.
So I will start with Vahan Teryan, late 19th, early 20th century Armenian classical poet. Actually, this guy is very important because he just made Eastern Armenia language of poetry. That's a complicated situation. We have Western Armenia, Eastern Armenian, and so this guy is important. And why I choose this one, it's called Arise Democracy. And democracy in Armenian is ժողովրդավարություն. And I searched a lot and find out that there is no poem except this one which has ժողովրդավարություն or democracy in the title. So this is unique.
And your rebellion against the lack of democracy in Armenia?
So it says, arise, democracy, resound with thunder from all directions, break free from your shadowed corners, roar like the storm wind's breath, surge through alley and arena, arise with flame and fury, let this winding murky streets turn into whirling tempest, arise like fire, like molten floods, sweep through the circus and the square with clamor, cries and crashing voices, wash it all away. That's all. It's translated by ChatGPT.
But now in Armenian, yes?
And now in Armenian. Yeah?
Name.
Vahan Teryan. Vahan Teryan. Very important Armenian classic. So, Yel դեմոկրատիա, խուրխնդուն աղմկիր ամեն կողմ, դուրս թափվիր մութ խուցերից եւ որոտա որպես հողմ, լից եւ փողոց եւ կրկես եւ մրկուն ու հրկես, թող ոլորուն ու խավար այս փողոցները խառնի ճաղանջ եւ որպես հուր եւ լավա, լից եւ փողոց եւ կրկես, շաչ ու շարաչ, ճիչ ու կանչ, ողջը սրբիր ու լավա։ So the next one is Yerishe Charents, poet of poets, national poet. Like Yerishe Charents is all. Like there is no one like him. He's adored. He used to be a Bolshevik, Stalinist, Leninist, then nationalist, then chauvinist. He used to be everything. Like writing odes to Lenin and ending up writing pornographic poetry, futuristic, everything. So. Of course, he's a victim of Stalinism. They killed him in 1937, and nobody knows where he's buried, actually, till now. So this one is not translated by ChatGPT, but I think that I checked. ChatGPT did a better translation, but I have translated by Arakel Minasyan.
And you've chosen him for which of these rebellions that you just mentioned?
For all. I mean, for all of them, but this one is patriotic, and there is a story about it. I will come back to it after reading. So, it's called The Vision of Death. And we learn this poem. It's patriotic in schools. It's in textbooks. Every Armenian knows it by heart, etc., etc. Որպես ծկված թավջութակի լքված միլար դողում է սիրտս կարոտով միահարկու կարոտներից գագաթն է այն վերջին քնար մի պիրկ պարան ու երկնուղեշ փայտեր երկու like the black string of an abandoned sail I tremble with a dreadful longing the peak of my longing a final lyre a taut rope and two beams reaching to heaven. Like the dark scorn of my fate or like an old promise I left unfulfilled, broken. The beams of the gallows stand in the city haughty, waiting for a victim. Two beams standing quietly together, and between them trembles, feeble and wavering a rope, grey as the flameless heart of Nairi in my orphan soul. A fireless evening has fallen on the gallows, and shadowless, quiet, endless and still, like the hurt of these days, the bitter sorrow of death imprisoning my unruly heart. And the shops dejected and grey, and those people gathered now around the gallows, so near that fragile lyre of death, what do they want, so sad and reluctant? And who might have dreamt such bitterness, and my soul, bright morning, who made a fairless evening a grey robe, and who, two beams reaching to heaven, perhaps it was I, moonstruck, who brought you no fire from fairway, and allowed no heavenly lyre to announce the bright future of Nairi. Let me now go. And with inconsolable longing, with my poetic dreams and flames, the dark song of my charmless days, and the final love of my dream of Nairi, let me in that dying light go. Like a fugitive ghost, like a vision, let me give my neck to the longing that reaches for heaven, and let me swing, tragic and blameless. Let no one be sacrificed but me. Let no other feet approach the gallows, and let them in my dying eyes see my dazzling country, your hallowed future. Let them in my dying eyes see your bright tomorrows. Let no one be sacrificed but me. Let no shadow approach the gallows. So this is Charents, and why I choose this one? Because in 2000, because of the school, and because in 2008, our first president, Levon Ter-Petrosyan, after a decade of silence, came back to politics, and there was a huge movement. For a very long time, we didn't have it. We can call it really all national. And Armenians, who were very angry on Levon Ter-Petrosyan because he left on a very bad moment of our history. But after reading on stage this poem, I assume Armenian people forgive him and give him the second chance. So there is a long story, but that's why I choose this one, because sometimes politicians come back to our hearts using Armenian classical poetry, and they did it several times. As you will see, the next one who likes to read poems like he did it everywhere is Nikol Pashinyan, the current prime minister of Armenia, but he was more, he actually wrote a poem. Very bad one, in my opinion, but this poem became the anthem of our so-called Velvet Bloodless Revolution in 2018. And all nation was like knowing this by heart and singing, etc., etc. So that's why it's Chat GPT told me that it says, "Today I take a step, I take my step today. This is the path of bright and sparkling hope. It is the pen that writes our people's future. Though I have fallen time and again, seen the life's cruel mark, still our will is firmer than stone, and my soul refuses to break. I'm not alone. We walk together. Forward and onward we advance. Look into our eyes. You will see a burning sun of hope," etc., etc., etc. It's a very long one. Just a small piece from that one. Այսօր ես անում եմ իմ քայլը, ես անում եմ իմ քայլը այսօր, սա հույսի արկայծող ճանապարհ է, սա գրվող պատմություն է մի նոր, ես մենակ չեմ, մենակ չեմ, մենակ չեմ, քայլում ենք, քայլում ենք, քայլում, ու մեր մեկտեղվող աչքերի մեջ հույսի արեգակ է փայլում, այսօր մենք անում ենք մեր քայլը, մենք անում ենք մեր քայլը այսօր, սա պատվով քաղցրացած ճանապարհ է, սա ծնվող հաղթանակ է մի նոր, and so on and so on and so on. So, and he came to the power, and he's still there, thanks to poetry. And the last one is another Armenian classic. It's another generation. Baruch Sevak, as philosopher Vartan Jaloyan says, two poets of the generation of 60s made Armenians Turkophobe, and one of them is this Baruch Sevak. But, however, in 1949, right after the World War II, he wrote a poem with title Peace. And I was like reading, I was searching on Google, peace, peace, peace was there. And this is the only poem with the title Peace. So, not much. And Baruch Sevak wrote, it's a good poem actually, but it's so failed. Like it's like so Soviet propaganda, like Niromir, like, you know, this peace to everyone and everywhere, that all world is like just, you know, seeking and wishing for that peace, and that nature itself wants that peace, and every child cries, no to war, no to war, and we want peace, etc., etc. So what I did, I just changed a little bit it. I made it like very clear, peace to Ukraine, and I added a last line, which is not only peace but also victory. And I will read, because Baruch Sevak, we just, you know, in schools it's like Hangarel, inchi hamar, garuner chekazamar, pul yekav yerknakamar. That's the tone usually Armenians read Baruch Sevak. So I tried to do something else, especially for this evening. Խաղաղություն ամենքին եւ ամեն օր, այդ ենք միայն Ուկրաինային կամենում, խաղաղություն ամենքին ու ամեն օր, այդ ենք միայն Ուկրաինային կամենում, խաղաղություն, որ խաղողը քաղցրանա, որ նորատունքն ակին տաբերք ու բարիք, խաղաղություն, որ աչիկներն իր բաննա, դաշտում մի տուղ տորորոցում մի բալիկ, մի ծով ծորեն գարնանային արտի մեջ, անգիր մի երկ բանաստեղծի սրտի մեջ, մի երեքնուկ բացատի մեջ անտարի, անխոս մի սեր սրտի խորքում պատանի, խաղաղություն Ուկրաինացուն իր երկրում, մեծ հետ նույնը բնություն է կամենում խաղաղություն որ տատիկները բոլոր երկեն իրենց թորնիկներին մեղմորոր որ մայրերը եւ արտերը ծոցվորեն որ դաշտուծոր հասունություն վարձորեն որ բանվորը գոհանա իր վաստակով շինարարը երկինք ելնի լաստակով սերմնացանը ապնիր խփի ու բանա այգե գործը դեռ չխմած արփենա խաղաղություն Ուկրաինային ամենքին այդ են ուզում ամեն մարդու ամենքին խաղաղ լինի բուրոդյան կանարնակամ Ուկրաինարի հերոսները առնական խաղաղություն բոլոր նրանցում համար ծանր է տեսնել սքավորքին քույր ու մայր ծանր է տեսնել իր քաղաքը մոխրացած այգին դարձած խրամատի անելցած խաղաղությունով է կռիվ կամենում լոկ հայսարն է որ հնչում է ամեն օր պատասխանը միևնույն է ամեն տեղ ոչ ասում է ամեն երկրի ազնիվ ցեղ ոչ հնչում է հայոց լեզվում մի բառով ոչ հնչում է իրավունքի բառով այգին ջրող բահը նույն է պահանջում նույն է տանջում ձուլալ հոսող ամեն ջուր նույն է ճճում ամեն մանուկ նորածին նույն է ասում լուր հպումը սիրածի խաղաղություն ուկրաինացուց ամենուր հաղթանակ եմ Ուկրաինային կամենում հաղթանակ եմ Ուկրաինային կամենում That's all
That was Armenian spirit of protest.
Probably, I don't know.
But so this modified version that you've made for us, it's like your own contribution to Armenian protest poetry.
Hopefully, hopefully. There's a lot of jokes about this, and I mean, there are a lot of stories, but this Cafe Europa format it doesn't allow us to start lectures on Armenian poetry, but I will end up with a joke. There is a joke that Armenians are probably the only nation that doesn't have any, suicidal poet because none of our poets really committed suicide. And every time we're gathering, like with poets, writers, etc., we want to convince someone, like, go and make a suicide. You'll be the first one. So that's it.
Thank you. The poem and the poet that you've chosen.
I didn't actually think long because it's so difficult to switch to different mode. Armen.
It's not easy,
yeah,
that's
it's
true.
not easy. So this is a living poet that is the most important, prominent poet in Georgia, who was detained on 25th of June, and this prosecutor's office charged him with assaulting a police officer. And Ziad Radiani, I guess he will be discussed a lot during our discussions, but I could not think of the other poet or poem that I could read today. So he's the one of those who are regarded as prisoners of consciousness. They're 65 already. And Ziad was the one who was standing on Rustaveli Avenue, which is the major, main protest area in Georgia for 35 years, I guess. And he's been the most vocal and most critical and articulative in terms of what was really driving people to the streets. So the interesting thing about this case is that there is one of two women detained in the prison, and one of those is the journalist and the founder of I guess one of the first independent media organizations in Georgia, and she's also charged charged with assault to a police officer when she slapped him in the face while being pushed away during those riots. And actually Zviad did the same very thing. So we still do not know what was it all about, because he hasn't made any statements, but I guess all of us can guess what this was all about. Because the woman, the Mzia Maglobeli, she's having serious health problems in prison. And in spite of the fact that she's widely, her case is widely discussed, nothing yet has been changed, so she stays in prison. So I'll read one of Zviad Radiani's poem, which is also translated in English. It's called Requiem for the Living. I should read in Georgian first, right? Requiemi ცოცხლებისათვის. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, როცა გზას უკვალავდით მზეს ცივი სახლისკენ. ჩვენი სიმართლე შეირყა. ჩვენმა შეყვარებულებმა შხამისფრად გადაიღებეს თმები. ჩვენი ბავშვობის საწოლები უკაცრიელ ქუჩებში დაწვეს, შემცირნებულმა ჯარისკაცებმა. ხოლო სამშობლო გარდაცვლილ მამას ჩავაყოლეთ გულის ჯიბეში, როგორც ძვირფასი ნივთი. მამა გიჟი იყო. მე ვიჯექი უცხო ქალაქის ცივ კაფეში. მეზობელი მაგიდიდან გადმომაწოდეს გაკრული ხელით ნაწერი ლექსი. მე კი მუნჯური ჟესტებით და მიმიკით ავუხსენი, რომ მათი ენა უცხოა ჩემთვის. კაფეს კუთხეში მარტოდ იჯდა ბიჭუნა. დამცინავად მიყურებდნენ მისი თვალები. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, როცა ქურდულად გადავწვერით მავთულ ხვართებზე და შევიპარეთ აკრძალულ მინდორში. რათა მოგვეწყვიტა 2-3 თბილი ყვავილი, ისე ყოველი შემთხვევისთვის. მე ვიდექი უცხო ქალაქის მდინარესთან, ზემოთ კი ხიდის მოაჯირზე იდგა ბიჭუნა და სულ ტყუილად ავძახოდი, არ გაბედო, ცურვა არიცი. ის ჩაეხეთქა მღვრიე წყალში და რატომღაც წყალს არ დასცდა არც ერთი შხეფი. და მერე დიდხანს სულ ტყუილად გავყურებდი მდორე მდინებას. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, როცა კოცნისას ვერ მოვთოკეთ სიყვარული და თვითმკვლელობა დავანებეთ. ხოლო ცოდვა მაშინ ვიგრძენით, როცა უაზროდ დავყურებდით თეთრ ზეწარზე მოწყვეტილი ყვავილების ყუნწებივით მიყრილ სუსტ ფეხებს და მკვდრის ღიად დარჩენილი თვალივით შეხსნილ საშოშ ჯოჯოხეთს. მე ვიწექი უცხო ქალაქის სასტუმროში და ვფიქრობდი მეგობარზე, რომელსაც დავცინეთ. ყვავლით გაბუღულ ბნელ დარბაზში. ის ქვითინით კითხულობდა საყვარელი ქალისთვის მიძღვნილ სტრიქონებს, ჩვენ კი ვისხედით ბოლო რიგში და სიცილით ვიგუდებოდით. როცა ის მოკვდა, მეგობარი, ის მოკვდა და მეტი არავინ. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, როცა ყველაფერს ვიჯერებდით, რასაც ვერ გვგრძნობდით. ჩვენ ვიჯერებდით ყველაფერს, რასაც არ ქონდა სუნი, რასაც არ ქონდა გემო, რასაც არ ერქვა სამშობლო და ზამთარ ზაფხულ უნაყოფო ხეს ვარხევდით. დავაშლი რა, ხეს ერთხელაც არ დასცვივდა მკვდარი ჩიტები. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, რომ მხოლოდ თავს ვიტყუებდით, როცა ცხოვრებას ვიწუნებდით, შესაძლოა ჩვენ არ გვქონდა ცუდი მიზნები. შესაძლოა ჩვენ ფიქრობდით დიდებაზე, რათა მისი ბრჭყვიალა მტვერი დიცულოვნად დაგვებერტყა სამშობლოს მხრებზეც. ოღონდ შემდეგ, რა თქმა უნდა სიკვდილის შემდეგ. ადამიანი შეიძლება იყოს ბოროტიც, სულ ეს იყო, რაც დაგვასწავლეს და გამოგვისტუმრეს აქეთ ცხოვრებაში, რომელიც ისეთი ძნელიც არ გამოდგა, როგორც გვაფრთხილებდნენ. არც ისე ადვილი თვითონ რო გვეგონა. ადამიანი შეიძლება იყოს კეთილიც. ვუთხარი ჩემ შულს და გაკვირვებით, რომ შემხედა თვალი ჩაუკარი. ადამიანი შეიძლება გაუმეორე, შეიძლება ადამიანი. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, როცა ყიჟინით შევუერთდით აჭრდილ მეომრებს, რომლებმაც ყველას დაგვირიგეს თითო მაშხალა და მთელი ღამე ჩაგზახოდნენ უცნაურ სიტყვებს. სამშობლოს მიაჩნია, სამშობლო ვარაუდობს, სამშობლოს ესმის. მთელი ღამე გუგუნებდა მიკროფონი, ტორტმანებდა მოედანი და კედლები იბზარებოდა. ან გამარჯვება, ან სიკვდილი, ღნაოდნენ ჩვილები. სამშობიეროს დაგმანული ფანჯრებიდან და ეკოთ ჭეკდა დერეფნებში. სიკვდილი. რატომ კითხულობდი უცხო ქალაქის ბნელ ტაძარში, რატომ ასეთი უკიდურესობები? ხომ შეიძლება იყოს ორივე, ხან სამოთხე, ხან ჯოჯოხეთი. ვკითხულობდი უცხო ქალაქის ბნელ ტაძარში, სადაც იდგა პატარა კუბო და მე ხვდებოდი ვინ იწვა მასში. ნუ თუ მე მხოლოდ ჯოჯოხეთი დავიმსახურე. მით უფრო, ნუ თუ მხოლოდ სამოთხე. რატომ ვკითხულობდი ასეთი უკიდურესობები? ხომ შეიძლება იყოს ორივე, ხან სიცოცხლე, ხან კი სიკვდილი. ვკითხულობდი უცხო ქალაქის ბნელ ტაძარში. სამწუხაროდ არ ვიცოდი არც ერთი ლოცვა და ხატებზეც სამწუხაროდ ვერავის ვცნობდი. კუბოში კი სხვის მაგიერ იწვა ბიჭუნა, შესაძლოა ჩემს მაგიერ, რასაც ყენია, რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, როცა შიშით შევცინოდით ბებერ მეფეებს და ვარწმუნებდით, რომ იმღბლიან ვარსკვლავზე გაჩნდნენ. ვახსენებდით თუ როგორი მშვენიერი იყო ცხოვრება. მათი ვაჟები ვამპირები გმირულად მოკვდნენ. ქალიშვილები დროულად გაბოზდნენ. მათი ბიზნესი ჰოსპიტალი ღიაცის ქვეშ და იჯარით აღებული სასაფლაო აყვავდა და გაიფურჩქნა. მათი თითები ახლაც კი მიყრწნილ სიბერეში ფულზე სწრაფად ითვლიდნენ წამებს. ღირსეული დაფეხვილი მეფეები ნელთბილ წყალში ჩაეყარათ ხმელი ფეხები და ბუზღუნებდნენ. როცა ჩრდილებს ვაჭრით ჭრიდით ხელის კანკალით. უცხო ქალაქის სასაფლაო, უცხო ხალხი, მეც იქ ვიდექი. ფეხის წვერებზე ვიწეოდი, რომ ერთხელაც მომეკრა თვალი მკვდარი ბიჭისთვის, ვიდრე კუბოს დახუფავდნენ და დამენახა მისი ჩემი დედა ჩვენიც. გვამის თეთრი საყელოდან მონაბერი სიკვდილის ქარი და როცა სახიდან წამოხდიდა შავ თავსაფარს თუ წამოხდიდა. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, როცა მზისაკენ ჩვენ ცივ გულებს გზას ვუკვალავდით. ჩვენი სიმართლე შეირყა, ჩვენმა შეყვარებულებმა შხამისფრად გადაიღებეს თმები, ჩვენი ბავშვობის ნაწერები. მე ბალზამე ქალს მივეცით გარდაცვლილი ჭრილობების ამოსავსებად, გარდაცვლილი გიჟი იყო და სამშობლო ჩავაყოლეთ გულის ჭიბეში. მაგრამ დედამ ამის მერეც არ მოიშალა. ღამღამობით ოთახებში ბორიალი და ბუდბუდი. ნუ ინგრევა ჩემი სახლი, ნუ ინგრევა. რა დავაშავეთ ჩვენ, ვინც ვერ გავმდიდრდით, ვერც გავვლოდდით, ვერც დავიხოცეთ.
I will read it. I will try to read it in English then. Requiem for the living. What did we do wrong in constructing a path for the sun to this cold house? Our truth shattered. Our girlfriends dyeing their hair the color of poison. Frozen soldiers in the desert streets burning down what was once our beds. And as for our homeland, we put it in our faith father's pocket and buried it with him. Our father was a madman. I was sitting in a cold cafe of unknown town. Those at the next table passed me an illegible poem, and I mimed the gesture, trying to explain how the language is alien to me. In the cafe corner, a boy was sitting by himself, his eyes grinning at me. What did we do wrong? Secretly climbing over the wire entanglement and entering the forbidden field, to pick warm flowers, 2 or 3 of them, to have just in case. I was standing by the river of an unknown town. High above, on the railing of the bridge, a boy was standing and I was shouting in vain, "Don't you dare, you can't swim." He crashed into the muddy river, and somehow not a single cry slipped out of the water. And then, for quite a while, I watched the slow current for nothing. What did we do wrong when we couldn't retrain our love while kissing and let it kill itself? Yet the sin of it was still felt as the meaningless watched the feeble legs resting against the white sheet like the stems of cut flowers, half open, like the eyes of the dead, Virginia or hell. I was lying in the hotel of an unknown town, thinking about a friend we had laughed at. In the smoky, dark hall, weeping, he was reading a poem devoted to the woman he loved, but we were sitting in the last row roaring with laughter. When he did, our friend, it was only him who died. What did we do wrong to believe in anything we could not feel? We believed in each and everything that was odorless, colorless, and was called a homeland, and all year round we were shaking a fruitless tree, shaking and shaking the tree for a single apple, but not even a dead breath fell from it. What did we do wrong? We were just lying to ourselves, slandering this life, perhaps, but with no ill intentions. Perhaps we were thinking of glory too, to lavishly shower its sparkling dust on the shoulders of our homeland. But afterwards, of course, we died. A human might also be evil, was all we were taught. Then we were pushed here to this life, which turned out to be neither so difficult as we had been told, nor as easy as we ourselves had expected. A human might be killed as well, I told my son, and in his surprised response, I winked at him. A human might, I repeated, might. What did we do wrong joining the ghost warriors who gave out a torch to each of us and through the night drummed into us the wildest words? The homeland ponders, the homeland presumes, the homeland perceives. All night long the microphone was droning, the square swaying and the walls cracking. Either victory or death, babies were sobbing. Through the nailed-up windows of the maternity house, echoes thundering through the halls. Death, death. Why? I wondered in the lightless temple of unknown town. Why are there such extremes? Can there be both, paradise now and hell after? I was asking this in an unknown town, in a church with a small coffin inside, and I was guessing who was lying therein. Did I really just earn a journey to hell? Likewise, can you really earn just paradise? Why? I was wondering. Why such extremes? Can there be both? Life here, death there? I was questioning this in the lightless temple of an unknown town. Regrettably, I didn't know any prayers and was unable to recognize anyone in the icons. And the little boy was lying in the coffin instead of someone else, possibly instead of even me. What a shame. What did we do wrong as we smiled fearfully at the old kings and persuaded them that they were born under a lucky star, reminding them how wonderful their lives were, how their vampire son fell heroically, how their daughters were deprived at just the right time, how there's businesses, a hospital under the open sky and a rented graveyard prospered and blossoms. Their fingers, even now at their rotted age, are counting seconds faster than money. Majestic, descript kings, with their dry feet in the warm water, glambing as we cut off their ingrown nails with trembling hands. A graveyard in unknown town. Strangers. I too was there, rising on my tiptoes, trying to glance at least once at the dead boy before they locked the coffin up, and to see our mother before a death breeze from the white collar of the dead body blew away her black handkerchief and unveiled her face, if it even could. What did we do wrong, constructing a path of our frozen hearts to the sun? Our truth shattered. Our girlfriends dyeing their hair the color of poison. We gave the writing of our childhood to the embalmer woman to fill the wounds of the dead man up. The man who died was a lunatic, and we put our homeland in his pocket. But mother still is not out of the habit of wandering at night from one room to another, muttering, "Do not let my house fall into ruin. Do not let my house, do not let it fall." What have we done wrong, we who have not managed to grow rich or become drunkards or die?
Oh, this will be a small dialogue. I will follow Ira's pattern of reading you the poem and then my response to it. So it was like an exchange of letters, also with the person who was killed. Yes, there is an empty chair here with us, and probably you know this tradition invented by Pen Club in the world, that we are gathering, having empty chair to remember poets, writers who are not with us because either they were killed or imprisoned in the world. And it happened also to Parnia Abbasi, a young 23 years poet from Tehran, who was killed by Israeli missile. And I will read you her last poem, her last voice, written in Persian, but it was translated by her friend Gazat Masadek and into English, and I translated it from English, but I will read you the English version of that. The extinguished star. I wept for the both, for you and for me. You blow at the stars my tears in your word. The freedom of light, in mine, the chase of shadows. You and I will come to an end somewhere. The most beautiful poem in the world falls quiet. You begin somewhere to cry the murmur of life. But I will end, I burn, I will be that extinguished star in your sky, like smoke. Reading this poem, I felt that it is like a letter addressed also to me. So I sat down and wrote an answer to that letter, a poem which is titled "The Most Beautiful Poem in the World." The most beautiful poem in the world I hear as it falls silent, struck by the bomb shrapnel, precise to within a few meters, targeted at your home. It is said that a sacred enemy lived there, so the safety of the chosen nation, and chosen is everyone armed to the teeth, required killing by chance and without intent. All of them, we may say, neighbors. Though you knew nothing of this, in the doctrine of the Übermensch, you were a shield with a death sentence for your place of birth. The war brought me a letter from you, and for a long time I stood with it in the rain until it was soaked through with your tears, shed for you and for me, for us. Reading, I hear you grow quiet at the end of a good word, even more beautiful. In my native language, I seek the truth, to translate your letter, to learn you by heart, to breathe in the dust from a falling star. Parnia Abasi, Perseida Parnia, A, B, A, S, S, I. The embers of your name settle in me. I will blow on the watchful, let the fire-marmored weeping die out. How long I can keep this up, I don't know. War lies in wait, needle in hand, to infect me with indifference. Meanwhile, something strange has happened to the light. In my world, it is no longer, as you wrote, free. It has crossed to your side. It has blinded the war and built its nest in memory. There is a death, Parnia, that yet keeps alive. The most beautiful poem in the world. Najpiękniejszy wiersz świata. Słyszę, jak milknie. Uderzony odłamkiem bomby z precyzją do paru metrów nakierowanej na twój dom. Ponoć mieszkał w nim święty wróg i bezpieczeństwo narodu wybranego, a wybranym jest każdy po zęby uzbrojony, wymagało zabicia przy okazji niechcący wszystkich, wiadomo, sąsiadów. Choć nic o tym nie wiedziałaś, w doktrynie nadludzi byłaś tarczą z wyrokiem śmierci za miejsce urodzenia. List od ciebie przyniosła mi wojna i długo stałem z nią w deszczu, aż przemokła twoimi łzami nad tobą i nade mną, nad nami. Czytam i słyszę, jak milkniesz u kresu dobrego słowa, coraz piękniejsza. W rodzinnym języku szukam prawdy, by list twój przetłumaczyć, na pamięć nauczyć się ciebie i dym gwiazdy spadającej wdychać. Parnia Abasi, Perseida Parnia, A, B, B, A, S, I. Osadzają się we mnie żegary twojego imienia. Dmuchał będę na nie, czuwając, by nie zamarł szmer ognia, płaczu. Jak długo tak wytrwam, nie wiem. Wojna czyha przy mnie z zastrzykiem obojętności. Tymczasem coś dziwnego stało się ze światłem. W moim świecie już nie jest, jak pisałaś, wolne. Przeszło na twoją stronę, oślepiło wojnę i gniazdo uwiło w pamięci. Jest taka śmierć, Parnio, co trzyma przy życiu najpiękniejszy wiersz świata.
Yes, I was hesitating because I'm not a poet. I don't have a poetry of my own, and I'm not used to think of myself as a person of poetry. Although, of course, I have my preferences, and I should say, in recent months, I pay attention to poetry more and more, actually. But as we had the topic of rebellion and protest, digging through poems I could recall straight away, because poems you love, you remember them, maybe not necessarily by heart, but still. I was surprised to discover that none of them is directly, in very literal sense, about protest or rebellion. And it was surprising, because I dedicated to protest such a big part of my life. And apparently I don't, I cannot think of any particular poem. But then I decided, actually I've chosen two, and they are not maybe about protest in the first meaning of the word which comes to mind, but they are both about dealing with and protesting against death. Apparently, when we protest against something, and this is important to us, I think to an extent we always protest against death, because injustice is related to death, and violence is related to death, while life and freedom are things which are interrelated, at least for me. So the first one is a very well-known poem from Vasil Stus, who is very well known in Ukraine and beyond, poet, who was also a dissident and political prisoner, and who died in a Soviet prison camp in 1985. So literally at the very beginning of changes in Soviet Union. But this poem, he is written, if I'm not mistaken, more than 10 years before that, when he was arrested and was in pre-trial detention of KGB. It was his second arrest, and he knew that he probably will not get out of prison alive. Як добре те, що смерті не боюсь я, і не питаю, чи тяжкий мій хрест, що перед вами, судді, не клонюся в передчутті недовідомих верст, що жив, любив і не набрався скверни, ненависті, прокльону, каяття. Народи мій, до тебе ще я верну, і в смерті обернуся до життя своїм стражденним і незлим обличчям. Як син тобі доземно уклонюсь, і чесно гляну в чесні твої вічі, і в смерті з рідним краєм поріднюсь. And there is an English language translation. I'm not sure it's a good one apparently, but I couldn't find any other. How good it is that I've no fear of dying, nor ask myself how ponderous my toil, nor bow to cunning magistrates decrying presentiments of unfamiliar soul, that I have lived and loved, yet never burdening my soul with hatred, curses, or regret. My people, it is to you I am returning, in death I somehow find my fate. I turn my pain by goodly face to living, and in filial prostration I begin. I meet your eyes in fair thanksgiving, and join my kindred earth as closest kin. So, this is the first one. And the second one, I believe, is somehow a little bit against the rules, if there are any rules. I was lucky enough to have a chance this year to visit in Kiev exhibition by Lviv artist Olena Turyanska, who is called Agapa, Absolute Love. And I believe this is one of the most important artistic events of Ukraine of last year. And this year, Olena created this exhibition for several years, working with topic of loss of important things, loss of meaning, and in the first place, loss of loved ones. Of course, against the background of war. She was dealing with war and losses people suffer when they go through war. And at the end of it, and it is constructed as a series of several halls, and going through these halls, you go to the ultimate point of the exhibition, which is called Agape, Absolute Love. And there is a poem there which is not Ukrainian. It's a poem of Meryl Malloy, but it somehow kind of concentrates the meaning of the whole exhibition. So I decided to dare maybe to read it. But I still will read first the translation and then the original. Коли я помру, віддай те, що лишилось від мене, дітям і старим, що чекають на смерть. І коли захочеш плакати, поплач на плечі в брата свого, що йде поруч з тобою. І коли захочеш побачити мене, обійми того, хто поруч, і подаруй йому те, що мав би віддати мені. Хочу лишити тобі дещо, краще за слова чи звуки. Шукай мене серед людей, що знали чи любили мене. А як не сила віддати мене, залиш жити у твоїх очах, не в думках. Люби мене, даючи рукам торкатись рук, даючи тілам торкатись тіл. Дозволь дітям піти, як вони потребують свободи. Любов не вмирає, вмирають люди. Тож, коли все, що лишилось від мене, любов, віддай мене іншим. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. That's it.
I think that we can conclude with the only thing I think we haven't mentioned today. And also I have to say that today we were talking about living in truth. And I wanted to say that I think it's a privilege to read poetry that can touch you and at the same time make you react or feel. And that's why I have to tell you, Arman, even though I was laughing, I did not respect your thing. And it kind of even made me a bit angry, but we can talk about that. because I really respect poetry. So I also respect people who write poetry. And so this was my need to say this. And to conclude with that, I will read, and it's not an insult, it's just a comment, because I think that when we make jokes, we can make jokes, but when we are serious about things that touch us, I love to stay serious. And I will now read you a poem by Naivan Darwish. He's not related to Mahmoud Darwish, a Palestinian poet, both of them. Mahmoud was even engaged in Palestinian constitution back then, decades ago. Naivan Darwish is one of the new generations of poets. And he has a poem that is very, very short, which always reminds me of what we are living in, not only now with what is happening in Ukraine, but also what Krzysztof was mentioning, the attack on Iran that took a lot of lives, and but also the genocide in Gaza. And I think that Naivan Darwish made a brilliant poem, and I will tell you its title, and you can tell me who did say those words. Who remembers the Armenians? Whose words were those? Hitler's words, exactly. And I think this is the moment when the circle is done, because a Palestinian poet wrote years ago in the book Nothing More to Lose this poem about people who survived the first genocide we can recall as a genocide in Europe. And I will read now and try to read it as we can all hear those words. Naivan Darwish, who remembers the Armenians? I remember them, and I ride the nightmare bus with them each night. And my coffee, this morning, I'm drinking it with them. You, murderer, who remembers you? And to stay in what is happening, in 2019, I published the book Closed Season, and it is the first book of engaged poetry, feministic engaged poetry in Croatia. And it was very shocking for everyone because it is very straightforward. And one of the poems, because apartheid in Israel is not something that is a new thing, it's ongoing situation, as occupation also is. And there was this case of IDF not killing, but letting an Israeli girl bleed to death in the streets. It was 2018 when I read the news and wrote the poem. And it's in this book that will soon come out in October in United States. So I have translation. The beasts in Israel left my daughter for dead. Their faces always cleanly shaven, smelling of the salt and sage. They have houses with white facades, sometimes a daughter, perhaps one more than a son. They love them like an extension of their own spine, saving for them for their bedtime like Scheherazade, the sensible part of their tongue. And most often, they are warmer than mothers. They start the morning with short black coffee, never revealing their nature. Their bodies a hollow space, eviscerated, only a vicious voice cruising through their cocoons as they spend their work shift watching other people's wounded children, and like gardeners in charge of plants, command them to die, die, die. Thank you. Oh, including that. This is why I took cell phone. Yeah. I used to know where the poem is, but now I am like... I will send you, I have prepared some other poems, but I will not read them. But I will find now the original. Zvijeri u Izraelu ostavili su mi kćer da umre na cesti. Uvijek obrijanih lica mirišući na kadulju i soli, imaju kuće bijelih fasada, ponekad kćer, kćerk pa sina. Vole ih kao produžetak svoje kičme, za njih odvajaju kao Šeherezada zdravi dio jezika prije spavanja i često su topliji od majki. Jutrom piju kratku kavu i nikome se ne odaju. Cijeli su šupljina bez unutarnjih organa, samo im viskozan glas kruži u čahuri kad u radno vrijeme gledaju tuđu ranjenu djecu i kao vrtlari biljkama zapovjedaju: umri, umri, umri. Hvala.
Hvala puno. Before I ask Mikołaj to play the last piece of the evening, I just wanted to thank you for all the voices that you evoke tonight, for your own poetry, but also for reading and sharing the poetry, which is important for you as a protest, as a rebellion for the reality that we are all experiencing. And it's just the beginning. We have one more evening, so we will keep the conversation going, and we will meet here for the last night of Dilemma Academy, also for the second part of Café Europa. Thank you so much.